Welcome back to Gonna Be Frank, and thank you to everyone who voted on the poll that I put out recently, as I asked who would you like to see me cover next on this fantastic Muppet Makeover series. One of the highest voted characters, or the highest voted character on that poll was the fantastic Sam Eagle, so that's who we're going to go over today. Yes, on the screen now is a photo of the first puppet of Sam that was ever built, and the most recent puppet, yes. Now, as you can see, Sam has actually, overall, we can already see just straight from the get-go, he's not changed that much at all. But again, like I just spoke about in the lips, not in the lips, that's a spoiler to who's coming up next, in the Zoot episode, is, you'll see, Sam originally was made straight out of foam, carved foam, which had the same effect that we saw on Zoot when I covered him in that video, so Sam's colour would change a lot. But here you can see he's pretty newly built here, and he's that wonderful blue colour that we all know him to be today. Now, the first thing I want you to notice is the eyebrows. The eyebrows seem to be stand out a little bit more. They're on a bit more of an angle to follow that slightly more bird-like structure there, and they're angled a bit to make him look slightly more angry, and you see less of his pupils there, and you can see at the top of his head it's kind of goes in a little bit. It's not a proper rectangle, and you can see the top of his head is a fantastic little dome there. There's nothing on top. His feathers are a lot more out there at the moment. At the very beginning, they're very spread out. They're not as formationed or as in the correct sort of order that we know them to be on the new, more recent puppets. They sort of spread out a bit more like wings, and they're much more expressive, to be honest, with that. And it sort of gives off that character of being, a wild man inside, but he has to always keep himself in line because he can't be seen doing anything crazy. So that puppet design is perfect right there, and you can see that the beak is very pointy. It's a very pointy shape. The mouth is a lot more noticeable in the newer puppet, as the foam is just, that's naturally how the foam works there. You can see his eye bags are quite a bit larger, and they droop further down, touching the top of his beak there. The new one, that isn't the case. You can see they're much more formationed, and they're in a better formation, and they sort of go around the eyeball with the same sort of depth around the entire thing. But on the Sam Eagle one, it's it starts on each edge, and then it's very droopy at the very bottom there. The next thing you might notice is there's much more feathers on the more recent one. Around his neck there, the frill around his neck, much more feathers. On the new one, you can sort of see that pupils are much more out there to get the better connection with the audience there. You can see that more. The top of his head is less of a dome and more of a flat top, and you can sort of see the eyebrows are sort of highlighted above his black fur eyebrows there. They've got some little bumps to sort of show where his eyebrows sort of muscles would be, if you will. On the original they had that, but they've certainly accented it more on the one that's new. So the beak has stayed the same, but the thing is that because the original was made out of foam, there's slight variance and gradients in the colours, tones of the blue that was his skin colour, or his fur, or his whatever you want to call feathers. So on the new one, it's not made out of foam, it's made out of fleece, the Antron fleece, and you can see that it keeps that same blue colour the entire thing around, and it kind of makes him feel quite non-3D, because in the old one the texture and the shadings kind of add some nice depth to it that the one that they have now does not. Now, you may also know that the Sam Eagle puppet has a mech inside the head which controls the eyes to go left and right. You can see that on the more recent one, the high quality cameras actually can show that a lot much better. You can see the shadow that's cast behind the pupils right there. Quite cool to see that. So there you go, he's really not changed that much at all. He really hasn't changed that much at all. He's kind of got less expressive though, I think, as the puppet itself is, and I think that Eric does a really good job of getting his emotions out of that character these days. But the original puppet shows more of that, more stern, angry, I don't know what the right word is. So yeah, I think the original one is a lot more expressive, but the new one's much neater and much more pruned and perfect, but it kind of doesn't add to the character as much. But it's still a fantastic puppet. Sam has not changed that much, therefore he will go on the A section. And yeah, let me know who you would like to do next. The poll had Wayne and Wonder, so I think I'm going to do Wayne and Wonder next. And yeah, we'll see you next time. I'll keep on doing polls to let you know who I'm thinking of doing next, and you can throw in your comments there too. Fantastic. Sam Eagle, he's not changed that much. He's going to go on the A for the Muppet ranking lists. Thank you for watching Muppet Makeovers, and we'll see you next time.